Sometimes you're given a table of values like what you see here. You have to interpret these values and plug them into a function that's given. So in this case, we have a function of h of x, and we need to find the derivative of that function when x is equal to 0. So first thing I like to do is just kind of rewrite this function in terms of the derivative. So we'll have h prime of x. Now we look at this first term here, we have 5 times f of x. So we know this is probably just going to be like a 5 is just going to be multiplied by whatever this function is. So we only have to find the derivative of f prime of x here. So that'll be 5 times f prime of x. And then subtracted by 3 sine of x. We know that the derivative of sine of x is cosine of x. So we have minus 3 cosine of x. Now if you take a look at this last part here, you can see we have two differentiable functions, 2x and g of x. So we know we have to use the product rule here, which is down here just in case you forgot. And we'll go ahead and annotate 2x as our first term, and then g of x as our second term. And we'll just go ahead and kind of plug these terms into our product rule and see how it expands out. So starting off, we'll have our first term is just 2x, and then we multiply that by the derivative of our second term, which in this case is the g prime of x. And then we add that to our second term, which is just g of x. Multiplied the derivative of our first term, which the derivative of 2x is just 2. So now that we have everything kind of plugged in here, or that we have everything expanded, I should say, in derivative form, we can start plugging our values in for our table. So if you take a look at our table here, we need to find the derivative of h when x is 0. So we have our x values here, x is 0. Now let's just go one term at a time. So we have f prime of x. So f prime of x when x is equal to 0 is equal to 2 here. So we have 5 times 2. Now cosine of 0 in this case is just 1. So 1 times negative 3 is just negative 3. Now looking at our product rule here, 2 times 0 is 0 times the derivative g of x, so we can just cancel this out. And that gives us this value here. So we have g of x at 0 is negative 1. And then we just multiply that by this 2 value. So it's negative 1 times 2. And then we can just solve this all out. So we have 10 minus 3 minus 2. And that gives us a final answer of 5.